Good morning. Welcome to Keep This in Mind. Brought to you by SpectHealth.com. And yes, this is the proof copy of my book, Old Dog's New Tricks version 2.0, that I am super excited about. It launches on Tuesday. Mark your calendars. Be watching this show. I will have all the details. I have a special guest on that day to kind of help me break down the book for you guys, to help you move from where you are to where you want to be. And I'm super excited. This book has been years in the making. Just to give you a little bit of background, I started the rewrite during COVID. So here we are, almost exactly 3 years since the start of COVID, and now the book's coming out, and I couldn't be more excited. I believe it is a word in due season for all of us, especially you folks like me who might have a little bit of gray and are wondering what is happening to the world around you. So, anyway, great Valentine's gift. There's my plugs. But before then is the Super Bowl. And I'm sure you're excited as I am. There's so much fanfare around it. Even if you are not a supporter of either one of the teams, the Super Bowl, the spectacle of it, from the game to the halftime show to the commercials, it's just an event. People gather. It's like there's like 1 billion chicken wings sold during this time frame. So the Super Bowl is a really big deal, but it's also an opportunity to really step back, because this is the pinnacle, right, for an NFL team. Every NFL team, and there's 30 of them, enter the season with winning the Super Bowl as a goal. But only one gets to win. And it's either going to be the Philadelphia Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs. So I have to ask you, what about the other 28 teams, and then after Sunday, 29? Would you define their season as successful? Would you define them as a success? Or are they all failures and there's only one who can be determined a success? You see, that you say, well, that's ridiculous, David. Not everybody can win the Super Bowl. You're right. But how many times do we continue to do the very same thing in our lives? That if we don't reach the goal, or if we don't attain the thing that we set out to attain, all of a sudden we are saying that the entire effort was a failure. I've been guilty of it in my own life. I can tell you, and I've done this on the live before, I've told you many times, an error in the newspaper, when I was a newspaper editor, would not get caught until the newspaper was on the street. Now, as a percentage of words in that newspaper, we're talking less than 1%, maybe less than 0.5%. But what is the one thing that I always harped on? The one error. And yet, the newspaper as a whole that day was a success. There was just this one error. Could be glaring, could be in a headline, could be, again. And let's be honest, there are people out there who feel like it's their job to point out every error that is in news media or in general. So we have this idea. It's very easy to slip into a failure mindset because we didn't get it perfect, or we didn't get all the way where we wanted to go. But can I tell you, it's probably time for us to reframe our mindset and begin. And remember, this is Keep This in Mind. So it is about what's between the ears. What if instead of tying success to the end goal, that we now reframe it back into the journey, and we define success as positive movement toward the goal that has been set. Positive movement towards the goal that has been set. Positive movement towards a fitness goal may be, I showed up to the gym 5 days in a row. Did I increase the weight? No. Matter of fact, I didn't do as good as I hoped I did, but I showed up. So that is increased movement, positive movement towards the goal we have set. Maybe it's in your finances. Did you save any money this week? Did you not go out once this week when you really wanted to? Did you not buy that thing and you actually put it back in the store because you have financial goals? That is success. Another one that I like to think about too is when we set measurable goals, it's really easy to set little benchmarks. And that when we reach that benchmark, we feel a little bit more successful and a little bit more successful. But intangible goals, the things about, I want to be a better husband, or I want to be a better father, or I want to be a better boss, they are not as easily defined. But you can still show levels of success in the journey when you take that step back. You step back each day, each week, each month, and reflect on the movement. Are you moving closer? Are you becoming better? Are you better than you were yesterday? Are you better than you were last week? Are you better than you were last month? I have a football story for you since it is the Super Bowl week. I can remember I think it was 2005-ish, my team, the Florida Gators, were playing the Mississippi State Bulldogs. My kids were actually at the game with my grandfather and friends in Starkville, Mississippi. They got beat by a pretty decent margin, and the head coach, Ron Zook, got fired. Middle of the season. So, was the season a success? Let's continue the story. Subsequent to that, there was a lot of rumors going around of who the next head coach was going to be. There was a group of Florida fans that wanted former head coach Steve Spurrier to take over the reins. But the administration at the time decided to hire this coach out of Utah, of all places, by the name of Urban Meyer. Now, I had never heard of Urban Meyer. I listened to Urban Meyer when they hired him, and I was like, oh, I'm not so sure about this. But in his second season, Urban Meyer took the Florida Gators to the national championship and won. 2 years later, they won again. In his tenure, they had won 2 national championships. So, even though it wasn't what I wanted, even though it took a mid-season firing to put the wheels into motion, was the loss to Mississippi State a success or failure? You see, time is a wonderful magnifying glass or clarifier. It brings the clouds away. It takes the emotion out. And when you get to look at something over time and you say, in that one moment that felt like the wheels were falling off, it led to a series of decisions and movement, positive movement in the direction towards a goal that now is obvious to most everyone that was a successful set of events. So I just want to encourage you today. How do you define success in your life? Are you hanging your idea of success on a destination or on an event or on an end goal? Or are you now thinking of redefining it into a place of a journey? That if I have positive momentum, forward momentum in the direction towards the person I want to be, the business I want to have, the relationships I want to have, the weight I want to be, the level of fitness I want to be. Am I moving forward? Am I doing better today than I was yesterday? And am I going to do better tomorrow than I was today? And even if I have a setback, am I going to continue the journey? Now you really know what success can look like. God bless.